Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. I can't wait for you to meet my two guests today because their passion, their mission is much like mine. They have both been exposed to toxic mold, and they are both on a mission from God to help bring awareness to this devastating problem and to help you understand that it's not just about spraying bleach on the mold and wiping it off, and that perhaps your illness may be caused by toxic mold. And I also wanted to start out by saying, this is what happens to your hair when you've been exposed to toxic mold. Just kidding. No, and also we will be getting some questions. So post your questions in the comment section and I will pose them for Lauren and Emily. Lauren, let's start out with you.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. I'm doing great today, Shemane. Thanks.
I can't wait for people to hear your story. So I'm just going to let you take it away. And just briefly, I know we, the three of us, have spent a lot of time on the phone and talking back and forth, but I can't wait for people to hear about your story and what happened to you.
Yeah, I'll share it really quick. So basically, my story kind of starts with my youngest daughter. We were concerned about some health issues and some things going on with her. And, you know, mold was not on the radar at all. And we went to her pediatrician and he was like, no, it's just her personality, or no, it's just, there's an echo, Shemane.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Should I turn something off or?
Just minimize your volume on your computer.
Okay. So, yeah, so the pediatrician was just saying it might be her personality. Every kid's different. And my motherly instinct knew that that wasn't right. And so and some of the symptoms I need to tell you with her were, she would have these fits, these raging fits where she would pull her hair out or bang her head against the wall. She would get sick all the time. She had really bad eczema that didn't look normal. And I mean, the list is really long, but so finally we found a pediatrician that really looks at the root cause of what's causing these issues. And she ran a bunch of blood work on her. And the day that we got those results told us that she had PANS pandas, which is basically autoimmune encephalitis, where they contract like a viral or bacterial infection and it crosses the blood-brain barrier and it shows in neurological symptoms. And usually the way that happens is their immune system is compromised. Mm-hmm. So that pediatrician also looked into what could be causing her immune system to be compromised. And that was mold, which shocked me because I'm like, we built our house in 2008. It was brand new. It was never flooded. There was never a water event. There's not mold in our home. Mm-hmm. So I, and the pediatrician said, well, it's probably her school. A lot of schools have mold in them. And I told her that it wasn't because we weren't able to potty train her yet. So we ended up having someone come over to look at our home, and lo and behold, it was in the HVAC system, which blew my mind because we literally had someone look at that HVAC system every couple of years because since we built the home, we had problems with it from the beginning. And this is what happens is there's structural issues going on with these homes and they're not built for the climate that we live in. And it's getting people sick. So that day that she told us that mold was making my daughter sick, I had this epiphany. I wonder if this is what's making me sick. And I had been having these health issues just slowly stack up over the years. Things like really bad migraines like you had. And one time I was standing in the kitchen and it felt like someone took a knife and just stabbed me in the back of my head. And it was an instantaneous migraine. And I just kind of like fell to the floor and I'd never felt something like that before. Ended up going to the ER and had an MRI done and they didn't find anything. And that's just one of the strange incidents. Yeah. All of my symptoms were, I had skin issues, like these whelps that would show up on my scalp. I was tired all the time, the migraines, the exercise intolerance, because I was a really healthy, would work out all the time. I would run a couple miles a couple days a week. And all of a sudden it got to where I couldn't do that anymore. So these things were just piling up. I would get vertigo. My feet would swell up. My hands and my feet would turn blue or like purple. I would get these involuntary muscle spasms. So I had a feeling that it was the same thing that was going on with me. So I went to the doctor and they diagnosed me with CIRS, which is chronic inflammatory response syndrome, and Mast Cell Activation Syndrome. Slowly over the past couple of years, we've been trying to heal from it, and my daughter's doing great. But as I'm trying to heal, we keep unraveling all these other health issues. And really, it's that mold just triggers autoimmunity in people. And it's really hard once it happens to get better. I mean, you can get better. It's a journey.
Yep.
And there's so many issues with it because, the medical doctors don't really recognize it or don't know about it.
Yeah.
And then there's the issues with homes. And I know Emily will talk about that in a minute, but
Yes,
mold is a nightmare overall.
yeah.
So,
Well, I'm sorry for what you're going through, what you've been through. And I do believe that we are all on a mission from God to expose this. If it can happen to us, it can happen to everybody. And we had our eyes wide open. Emily, tell us a little bit about your story.
Before I go into the story, I just want to let people know, because a lot of people get very scared when they hear our story. We're better today. And before I ever moved into mold, I actually used to work for builders, and I never thought mold could do anything that it did to my health, my son's health, my husband's health, our dogs. I was that person that if you tried to mention mold to me, I would just kind of look at you like you were crazy, because I didn't believe in it. And after our first son was born, we decided to move and to a small town to slow our life down, but so that I could actually be a full-time stay-at-home mom. And we moved straight into one of the most toxic environments we have still yet seen today. Immediately, we all started to get symptoms. My husband, not so much, because he was leaving the environment for 10, 15 hours a day going to work, whereas me and my son and our dogs stayed in it. And so we kept getting exposed, which made me end up looking like I was going crazy. Some of the first symptoms that I started to develop was cycle issues. I had extremely painful cycles all of a sudden, very heavy bleeding, skin issues, GI issues. I was a very good runner. I used to do half marathons. I could run a 7:32 mile pace over 13 miles. And by the time we left, I couldn't even walk up a flight of stairs. Our son, Sebastian, who was the most perfect baby, calm, sweet, into everything, just started saying words. He was 10 months old at the time of his exposure, regressed into severe autism. He was clinically diagnosed at the age of 3. My husband, and I say this even though I would never want my husband to be sick, but thank God he got sick, because over 6 months when we were living in this house, he was just dealing with chronic sinusitis issues. And then all of a sudden he started to develop nosebleeds and severe joint pain to where he couldn't even stand up in the mornings. He started to lose his vision. So all of a sudden he started to realize that maybe I wasn't going crazy, because I had developed all these symptoms, and something was affecting us all. And of course, we ended up finding out that it was mold. When we left the environment, we found out that we were expecting our second child, Malachi. 23 weeks later, we were told that he developed anencephaly, a terminal diagnosis. Come to find out, after doing research, there is a mold that actually causes your body not to absorb the folic acid needed to close that neural tube to prevent anencephaly, which is Fusarium mold. When we got my blood test back, I was full of Fusarium mold. So we lost Malachi at 35 weeks. after we lost him, that's when our son was diagnosed with severe autism. And luckily, because it was mold causing his symptoms, we were able to detox Sebastian, and it took a while. His body was able to heal, and he's no longer autistic today. So we are extremely grateful for that.
Well, God bless you both. I mean, for speaking out about this horrific nightmare that you've both endured, and my heart goes out to each of you for what you've been through. I just can't even imagine. We've got a lot of questions coming in, and I'm going to. I'm seeing a lot of people are commenting on this, and somebody has asked, "Can I share this?" Please share this now. If you can share this with 5, everybody watching can share it with 5 friends or more. We can help get this word out, because the number one reason that we're here talking about this is not to just spill the beans about what we think might be causing some of our headaches or symptoms. It's because this is a devastating problem, and I want to say epidemic, that has happened to not just our country, but many others. I was talking with some guys from Australia. It's all over the world. It doesn't matter where you live. If you have water infiltration, a porous substance, and lack of ventilation, you will get mold. So from either one of you, jump in. Vic K is asking how to test your house.
Oh, good question.
I'll answer that. So one of the things that my husband and I did when we got out of our environment, first off, we realized we were being lied to by the contractors. And so my husband has a background in construction. We sent him to the person to get the answers, which was the person that teaches everybody in the mold assessment or mold remediation industry who's trying to get a license. So my husband's licensed today as a mold assessment consultant. We have a company. We've been in the industry now for 5 years. One of the biggest problems in this industry are consultants going into a house and just testing. Testing has a lot of flaws. The most critical part of the entire process is the actual assessment, where you actually get a consultant to come in and find out where the mold is, because a lot of consultants make a lot of money just by going to 2 to 3 homes a day.
And excuse me, Emily, and they're in bed, so to speak, with the builder. So you've got to get an independent tester.
You do. And whenever anybody comes in and does an air sample, those samples a lot of times come back showing a false negative, which gives people a false sense of security that their indoor environment is okay. Mold spores don't stay airborne forever. And so when somebody tests a home, like is doing an air quality sample, they're hoping during those 5 minutes that the mold spores from the colony, wherever it's located, is in the air around that air pump at that time during those 5 minutes. And if it's not, then it usually will come back showing everything's okay. But in 6 hours, it could actually show, 30,000 spores of Stachybotrys or Aspergillus. So again, the most critical part is not the testing. It's actually having the consultant find out if you have mold growth in your home, where it's located, and then identifying the sources of moisture that are present.
Lauren, what were some of the symptoms? You talked about having eczema and that migraine. I got that too, where I had been getting so many migraines, like I was popping pills like M&Ms. And one of the main side effects for the medication that I was taking was death. And yet I was, here I was a health and fitness instructor since 1980, taught 15 high intensity aerobics classes per week. Mm-hmm. And yet, like you, Emily, you said, I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs at one point. I too went to the hospital with feeling like an elephant was sitting on my chest. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, you don't want to go to the hospital saying you can't breathe, but that's mm-hmm. what it felt like. And what we're talking about, for those of you who don't know and really haven't heard much about toxic mold, the symptoms could be as little as getting a migraine, and that's not a little thing. Trust me, I know. But it could be migraines. It could be sore throat, upper respiratory illnesses. It could be fibromyalgia. It could be autism, ADD, anger, rage, outbursts, insomnia. Lauren, fill in the blanks. What am I missing?
All over muscle and joint pain.
Yep.
A lot of it's a multi-symptom illness, right? It's a it can affect all the systems in your body is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
So, so you have skin issues, you might have gastrointestinal issues. I had a lot of that. It's not that you're allergic to mold. There's mold allergies, and then there's mold illness. And when you live in an airtight home, like we build our homes these days, energy efficient, and you have mold growing somewhere, even if it's just in your HVAC system, and it's being blown out of all those vents, eventually, you're really breathing in mold every day. Yeah. And it's going to affect all the symptoms. So yeah, nosebleeds. I slowly became allergic to things. I would drink a glass of wine and I would get really splotchy and my hands would start to swell. So I kind of became allergic to alcohol, so many things. I couldn't focus. My eyesight was affected. So it really can disguise as different illnesses too, like arthritis.
Yep.
Many things.
This one, Trisha's saying, I get vibrations in my body from mold. I remember when Ted and I would go to sleep at night, it felt like we were in one of those old hotels where you would put 25 cents. You guys are probably too young to remember this, but the whole bed would shake. It felt like, in fact, one time I go, there is something in the sheets. There's like a mouse or something in there. I lifted up the sheets. There was nothing. It was like we had not just restless leg, restless body. And what Trisha's saying, she gets vibrations in her body. This is a great question for you, Emily. Where did it go?
It affects you psychologically too.
Yes.
I saw that one, and I wanted to say I was severely affected psychologically. I started to have hallucinations, not only visual hallucinations, but auditory. My husband was probably looking for a straitjacket for me, seriously, when I was in this townhome.
And I don't know which one of you said it, but I felt the same way. Kind of grateful, but not really, that my husband got sick as well, because he probably would have thought I was crazy. Yep. There were times when, and it affected him similarly, but again, he wasn't in the house as much as I was. Usually, for me, he was on tour a lot, gone a lot. Rocco, my son, was in school and I was at home the most. But when he came home, neither one of us could sleep. He would have headaches. I had debilitating migraines, but we both had short-term memory loss, where one time he put a jug of milk in the cupboard. And when we had those old telephones, because for me, it happened around the year 2002, when we had those portable telephones, I put it in the fridge. I mean, it was just little things that what happens is it's not enough to send you to the hospital. It's just, and then you go to doctors and they go, well, you're just too stressed. And somebody also said it's psychological. There are a lot of psychological symptoms too. And I'm looking for this one comment that was talking about builders that I wanted you to, neurological issues. I wanted you to touch on, Emily, since that's your forte, is you're in working with those builders. How can the average person who is not sure who to go to, and it's happened to me, guys, over and over and over, even though I knew what to look for, builders lie. They don't know what they're talking about. They aren't educated, and they will cover the problem.
Yes.
I used to work for builders. I used to help people find their lot, design their custom home, and build it. Now our company is one of the top in Texas. My husband, Josh, is one of the top experts in the state. He is hired to go in and basically do the assessments for the plaintiff in order to build the case, to identify where the mold is and what caused it, because he's extremely knowledgeable in building design and building codes as well. The problem with new homes, first and foremost, Texas is #1 for mold in the country. And the reason why is because of our new homes. I had no idea about that either until we got into this industry. But the biggest challenge that people face whenever they have a problem in a new home is that arbitration clause that they signed off on, because that arbitration clause is a good business decision for the builder, because the builder knows that only one person out of 100 can afford to go down that arbitration path. So if you have a problem, most people can't afford to even start to go after the builder, because usually on average you have to have about 10 to 15,000 set aside to hire all the experts needed to go in and build the case needed so that your attorney can even send the notice letter. Who has that kind of money?
I totally agree. And Angie Dowda says, check out Know the Cause with Doug Kaufman. He's a friend of mine. He's actually writing the foreword for my book, and I've already interviewed him for my documentary. Yes, check out Doug Kaufman. He's got a YouTube channel. It's called Know the Cause. And he was exposed to mold in Vietnam. And I go way deep, y'all, about toxic mold, because I did discover that it was in biological warfare and used in biological warfare. And also, can either one of you talk about how mold is written about in the Bible in Leviticus, and what do you think that means?
I think it's pretty clear that mold is very dangerous, so much so that even in the Bible, it says that you have to tear down the structure, take all the mold and material, take it to an unclean place outside of the city and bury it. And that's pretty much the truth. You cannot live in an environment with mold growth and not expect to not get affected at some point in time, because mold doesn't just produce allergens, it produces what's called mycotoxins. It's a poison. And eventually people are going to start to show symptoms. It's just a matter of time. Yeah.
Wow. Well, is there anything that either one, we could talk about this forever. Trust me, you guys, and we will continue to, but is there anything else that you want to share with people, Lauren, about any hope for some of their symptoms, if they're experiencing some of the things that we just talked about, what is something that they can do?
So definitely find a functional medicine practitioner or a doctor that's skilled and experienced in treating mold illness. But really, research that doctor first too, because, functional medicine doctors, they come from so many different backgrounds. And you want to, what I wish I would have known when I started, you want to know how much it's going to cost you per month, and a timeline, a rough timeline of when you could get better by. That's my advice. And right now, you can't you can try to go to your regular doctor about it, but they're not going to be able to do anything for you. They sent me to a infectious disease specialist, and they're not skilled in treating mold illness right now. So we're far off from getting help from allopathic doctors.
Michael Davis says, get rid of plug-in air fresheners. Yes.
Those are the death
of me. Gosh. I am becoming, I told my husband, I told you guys, I think the other day when we were talking, I am becoming a rhymes with itch in my old age, because if I walk into somebody's home that has one of those plugins, and even a business, the other day I was at a restaurant and they had those air fresheners, the plug-in air fresheners in the bathroom. I took it out.
Can I say something about that?
Yes, please.
So, I think this is so important to address, because what Shemane's talking about is multiple chemical sensitivity, which is a symptom of mold exposure. So you actually become sensitive to chemicals. It might sound kind of crazy to a normal person that an air freshener could flare us up, but it does. And it's heartbreaking, because so many of my friends and family have them in their homes. And if I go to their home and I'm there for too long, I just slowly start to fade away. And my symptoms start to come on. And I saw something the other day on Facebook. I can't remember where I saw it, but it was so cool, Shemane. It was, it said, choose friendship. It was friendship and family over fragrance. And I was like, yes, like
I like that.
I know. And it's hard for me because like my daughter's cheer, when she has practice, I can't go watch her at practice because there's Glade plugins in that place. So
have you asked to have them removed?
You know, I haven't yet.
You should. That's why I say I've become a rhymes with itch, starts with a B. You know what? Not only is it not good for you, Lauren, it's not good for your children.
Right.
When I got really sick, I couldn't even have parent-teacher conferences with my son or for my son's school. I couldn't. I opened the door to the school, and it was like a toxic brick wall hit me, almost made me pass out because of the intense chemical smells. You know, they build these schools nowadays without allowing fresh air to come in, no windows. And then they use these chemical cleaners and, you know, even ink. I mean, so many chemicals in the air. And now we have our kids wearing masks and we expect them to be attentive for 8 hours a day. It's insane, really. It doesn't make any sense.
It is.
My son, Shemane, so we all developed chemical sensitivities as well from our mold exposure. And I used to love chemicals. And now I will just start reacting when I'm around it. But same thing with my son's school as well. You know, they use a lot of chemicals. And not only that, is that not unhealthy for the kiddos in the school? But chemicals present when there's mold growth in a building causes the mold to go into sporulation and thus increases, you know, and a bad air quality issue, which people don't understand.
Scott Sanders says also cannot do fragrance candles. Again, same thing with me. If I walk into a business, I actually went to a chiropractor's office, which you would think chiropractors are, you know, they want you to be healthy and it's, you know, let's do something. Let's treat your body in a healthy way without giving you, you know, pills to cure your aches and pains. I went to this chiropractor and they had fragrance candles. Like there were about 6 of them on the front counter. And I went, oh, and somebody recommended this chiropractor to me. And I walked in and I went, oh, I have an appointment. Do you mind? And I said, this was a few years ago even. I said, do you mind blowing out those candles? I can't be in the same room with them. And the lady at the front desk said, oh, you know, I'll have somebody come talk to you. So the chiropractor herself came and talked to me. And she said, no, this is my sister's candle company. And we like the smell. And I went, well, I really need the chiropractor. I said, I'm going to have to wait outside. I literally walked outside and they still kept them going. And I'll never go back there again. It's just unbelievable. Fabric softener, please, y'all, please don't use fabric softener. It's difficult nowadays. Do you find this? To even look for Kleenex or trash bags because they all have scents.
Yes. Yes, trash bags. They're really hard to find unscented. Yes. So.
All right, Emily, how can people find you? And is there any last hope that you could give to people? Not last hope, but what would you like to say to people who are curious about what they could do, how they can test their home, and how they can find out more about you?
Well, first off, I think hope has a lot, like having hope whenever you're going through such a nightmare is so important because when you lose hope, it doesn't make anything better. People can get better. They may not get fully recovered, but if you continue to detox and, you know, do what you have to do, in time, you know, you can see your symptoms go down and hopefully you'll recover fully. It's not that it doesn't happen for everybody, but for a lot of people it does. For testing, again, the most critical part is the assessment, just finding the mold growth. You don't have to test at home if you find mold growth because mold growth is a sign of a moisture problem that shouldn't be there. There's testing. You can test a property for different situations if you're going to go into litigation for a landlord or a builder. But that's a longer conversation. But people can find me on a couple of different platforms. First, Technical Mold Inspectors, that's our company. Second, we started a nonprofit foundation called Malachi's Message in honor of the stuff that we lost. And so we really hope that foundation is going to provide people with financial means to get the medical assistance that they need that health insurance doesn't cover. as well as the financial assistance to rebuild their house back, fix their problems, assessments, and also replace their contents and items.
That's such an amazing resource, Emily. Say that again. Say the website again.
It's malachi'smessage.org.
malachi'smessage.org. Go there and watch Emily's video. It is heartbreaking, but also, you know, one of the things I like about you too is that well, a lot of things, but you are both hopeful in the face of, you know, such grave disappointments. And I think that's what the world needs right now.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to be in touch with you, and I hope to see you both soon. And thank you, everybody watching. Please share this because I've been suppressed, and I want this message to get out. This message needs to get out. You never know who might be struggling with this, with some of these issues that they go to the doctor and they can't find a cure. And the doctor just keeps doling out more prescriptions and more prescriptions, which cover the symptoms. And you're not really getting, then you got a whole list of other symptoms that you have to treat. So at this point in all of our lives, with what is going on in the world today, we need to get healthier ourselves. We need to get, I talked to you about this too. Wouldn't it be great if doctors would write a prescription for 30 minutes of sunshine 3 times a week?
Instead of telling us to stay inside.
Yeah.
No, what also would be great is if they actually asked if you are living in a water damaged home or
Exactly.
building, but they don't do that. Not even on the forms that they provide you when you go down the list of questions. Yeah. And another thing, Shemane, we've been getting a lot of calls because people test negative for COVID-19. I don't know if you know this, but the CDC is also now stating that if you're testing negative for COVID-19, you need to think mold because mold can mimic those symptoms of COVID-19.
The CDC has actually said that?
That's it on their website.
Wow. Will you send me the link?
Yeah.
Send me the link. That's amazing that they've actually exposed that. That is awesome. All right. Thank you guys again so much for being here. Emily and Lauren, God bless you both. And I'll be in touch with you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. And thanks for sharing. Bye.
Bye.